I guess starting with the unique relationship that kids have with their parents. So it's really interesting because my husband can do something and I'm so much more quick to forgiveness with him than I am with my mother. Yeah. And I've done a lot of work on that relationship and it's continuous. So that's why I kind of asked your healing question, because for me, I don't think that there's ever a point where that relationship is 100% pure, pristine, and there's like nothing else that kind of needs to be turned over, because that parenting dynamic never goes away. And there's like this weird shift that has to happen between who's kind of the dominant one or in charge, or maybe that agency that comes to play, and whether you're in a healthy home and that comes later, or you're maybe in more of a dysfunctional home and then that agency shows up a lot earlier. Like you have to kind of be the parent because there is no parent, which was my case.
Which itself is a source of trauma.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you can get to a place where I've done a lot of forgiveness work with her, but there are certain things, and I've heard you kind of speak on this, it's like certain things will give me a visceral response. And I'm like, something still needs to kind of be lifted and lightened up there. So why am I so much slower to forgiveness and so less gracious with her than I am with other relationships?
Well, probably because she's a uniquely horrible person.
Right. Right. And someone's like, yes, I knew it. No. You know what I mean? And at some point that would have been my response, right? Like my anger is justified and it's righteous anger and how dare she? And that is not a healthy place. And you're never going to get,
But there's truth in all of it. Everything gets distorted. It's like a house of mirrors. But every illusion, there's some truth hidden in it. My anger is justified. Maybe your anger is out of proportion right now. Maybe your anger has nothing to do with what's going on right now. Maybe your mother is completely incapable of absorbing your anger, and the way you're unleashing it on her will not yield any of what you actually are committed to or want. So we could say that your anger is misplaced or misguided, or at least kind of out to lunch, because it's totally automatic. It's not like you wake up in the morning and be like, I think I want to flip out at my mother today, right. Like a child. That said, you are angry about something. It's just not happening right now. It's a long-standing grievance. And underneath every grievance, there is grief that we haven't processed. And we try to sort it out through the actual, like, we need to problem solve this thing that's happening now, but it's not about this thing that's happening right now. We're seeing what's happening now through the filter of all of the unprocessed emotions. Now, why is that the case in this relationship? It can't be otherwise. Even in the best case scenario, I can't imagine, because this book is called Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. So we put a lot of emphasis on the context in which everything is happening. It's not just that a lot more people are sick these days and trauma is rampant. There's a reason for it. We live in a culture that produces it in a sense, not on purpose, but as a matter of course, through all kinds of different mechanisms at every different level of society, from, political to cellular. But just take the relationship and put it in like an ideal kind of vacuum. It's really a weird, unique relationship. There is no other relationship like this. Think about it. When you two met, there's no one else you can say this about in your life. When you met this person, she was a fully grown adult, capable of making choices, who had had a range of experiences, had eaten many meals in her life and had seen things and done things. And she was a person. She had a name, she had a personality, a biography, all of that. She was in a relationship with somebody who co-produced you, or she wasn't in that relationship, but that's still a relationship. She was dealing with her own stresses, but she was either an adult or close to it. You were a non-thing. I mean, you were, at the very first moment, you were a couple of gametes meeting. You didn't have any choice in the matter. You weren't there to make the choice. In a sense, the parent has the choice to say, I'm going to bring this person into the world. Obviously, there are unexpected babies, but at some level, there is volition. There is saying, okay, this baby's happening. There's an invitation in most cases. Okay, come into the world. Well, the baby doesn't have that choice. That's number one. Number two, you didn't choose each other. Now, you could say cosmically, karmically, sure, we can say that's a nice story, and I'm willing to go with that. It has its uses to think of it that way. but also no, like you really didn't. My dad didn't have any inkling. I turned out very differently than my parents were expecting. And I'm sure they turned out very differently than I was, quote unquote, expecting, even though I didn't have cognitive expectations. We are all born into the world as an expectation for a certain kind of environment, which is actually an unstressed, fully emotionally attuned, emotionally available, communitarian, like not just a nuclear family, but if you look at our evolution has prepared us to expect to be born in a much larger context where the parents are supported and it's not all on them. And they're not struggling and striving to make a living in a dog-eat-dog economy, right? And also, I came into this world probably not expecting that my father would have survived a genocide and be carrying all the stresses and the darkness of that into the very first moment he held me. I felt it.